Hello, everybody. This is Christian Remo. I'm the founder and CEO of Meta Integration Technology. I had the chance to work on data modeling for years, for over 30 years. But I'm very excited because today I'm going to be meeting with Claire Frankel. Claire Frankel is probably the most advanced data modeler on the planet, especially in the banking and finance sector, where she has worked with most of the largest financial institutions and developed the most advanced models. And this is a topic close to my heart. Data modeling is very exciting and often the child left behind that people don't want to talk about these days, but still extremely critical. Well, Claire has released a new book, and the name of the book is called Data Models for Banking, Finance, and Insurance: Jumpstart Database Designs with Proven Patterns. Welcome, Claire, and how about you start before the book to tell us a little bit more about you?
Oh, sure. Thank you so much, Christian. I'm delighted to be here today. Um, I love to talk about data modeling. Um, well, a little bit about my career. I started at National Securities Clearing Corporation, which is the clearinghouse for Wall Street. It's a very good background to start with because you get to see all the trades from Wall Street being cleared, um, and to do data models for them too. After NSCC, I went to Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan Chase, and Goldman Sachs, not quickly, but slowly in my career, um, and built up to my final assignment as vice president of JP Morgan Chase, risk management.
That is a very impressive list of names here. These are the largest names in the US and worldwide, frankly, with respect to finance. And of course, doing data modeling on all of them, you must have a lot of experience. So it's not just the experience. Now you wrote a book about it. So data
Mhm.
modeling has been around for a long time. What motivated you to actually write the book, and why now?
Yes, well, until recently, I mean, if you're familiar with the financial world, the workday is pretty much, 12 hours. And so you're very, very busy when you're working. Not much time to write papers or produce books. But after after many decades of data modeling, I started to think about retirement. But then I thought, well, I have a head full of models. How could this go to waste? So, so I decided, I spoke with Steve Hoberman, and he agreed that it was a great idea for me to write a book about modeling in banking, finance, and insurance. And so in 2024, I spent 4 months basically emptying out my head into this book. Now, the book is primarily data models. I call them generic models because every business is different, slightly different, or perhaps different in a major way. Um, and these models can be subtracted, added to, relationships can change. These are suggested models or generic models. Uh, but but it's really the sum total summary of my knowledge.
That is really, really good. What's fascinating for me, being involved in data modeling for years at Meta Integration. For those who don't know much about us, we provide all the metadata components to most large vendors out there, including data modeling tool vendors, many of them, including uh, IBM data modelers, including Irwin data modeler, Idera IR Studio. We love all of them. So from the support, I see a lot of his data models coming from bank, JP Morgan, Chase, and all of that. So, what have you learned about the importance of a discipline at data modeling, and why did these banks actually perhaps took it more seriously than others?
Well, that's an interesting question, and there's a lot of history behind that. Um, it- uh, when servers first became even the mainframes, when the mainframes and the servers were installed in the banks, many times this is early on, we're talking about 1970s, 1980s, the banks would hire DBAs who are very important. No slur on the DBAs, but they would give the assignment to an assignment or several assignments to the DBAs, and the DBAs would simply write DDL, install it in the servers, and ultimately clash with each other. And the applications did not talk to each other. So data modeling, which shows you the interaction between entities or important pieces of data, grew up very rapidly in the 70s and 80s because there had to be some way to organize this data to be useful and to talk to each other and to create reports and everything that we get from our computer systems today.
Very, very good. In fact, the book focuses on banking and finance
Mhm.
and insurance, but there are some universal lessons for modelers and data leaders for other industries that I'm sure they can learn. What do you think?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Um, I mean, uh, I, in the book, I talk about at some length the fundamental data model of business, which is customer purchases product. It doesn't matter who the customer is, it doesn't matter what the
Absolutely.
product is, but this is the fundamental data model of all sales, of all business, customer purchases product. It's the foundation. And so I talk about that a great deal. Aside from the data models, or I should say, in addition to the data models, the book has practical advice. Do this, don't do that.
Both are needed sometimes. Actually, but can you describe the book structure and how you intend it to be used and the level of experience required to use it? Sometimes people get scared. I have to be an absolute expert. I believe, from what I've seen, there is for everybody on this book.
Mm, yeah, you don't have to be an expert to use the book. As a matter of fact, um, uh, I think experts would enjoy the book and say, "Oh, that's wrong. Oh, I do it this way." But let's say if you're just starting in a position as a data modeler for a financial firm, you can rely on the book to supply basic fundamental models for various aspects of banking and brokerage. And there's one life insurance model with tips for others. Uh, let's see. But as far as using the book, it helps to know a little bit of data modeling. If you understand what an entity, an attribute, and a relationship is, then you can certainly use the book. Now the book comes in different flavors. There's the print version, there's the electronic version, and then you can simply, excuse me, you can purchase the models themselves without the book. And it's all available on technicspub.com, which is the publisher.
That's a very good one. I'm sure we'll put the link at the end of this video so that people can go out
Right.
there And I just went to Amazon to buy your book, and that was my first question to you. Where are the show me the models? Show me
Right.
the data models, the Irwin models, the IDEA Studio model, or whatever methodology and tool you want to do. But it's tangible assets that you can import and do things. That's very good. Now, your book also includes in the title Jumpstart Database Designs with
Mhm.
proven patterns.
Mhm.
How should these patterns be used? Set readers' expectation for the effort required to apply them, to apply these patterns.
Yes, well, you really need one of the data modeling tools. The best use of these tools, or one of the best use of the models anyway, is to show your subject area to your business people and get their buy-in early and get them excited early, because they can see that let's say your business people want to settle derivatives. They can see that there's a data model that handles derivatives. I mean, my God, what do we have now? Um,
No,
right.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and actually, I'm going to again plug our technology behind all these tools. Tools like ER Studio are fantastic. You got this model in ER Studio. Inside ER Studio, you have something called the Meta Wizard, which is actually our meta integration technology. Technology,
Yeah.
and you can import, export these models to any technology of your choice. I
Mhm.
often say bring them in your data catalog because you can then map also your logical model to your physical model. You can do that for compliance. That is like
Right.
a very important topic that people have a tendency, and again, underestimate the value of data modeling. And let's pivot a few minutes to the state of data modeling as a practice. It seems
Mhm.
like the discipline, some say, has faded for a while, but do you agree with that?
No.
And for me, I disagree. I cannot disagree more. I think to understand data, it's not just a glossary in a data
Right.
catalog that's going to cut it. So please elaborate on that, as
Right.
I
Right.
think we cannot be more on the same page.
Um, I would never agree with that statement that data modeling has faded. Not in the slightest.
Absolutely. So where do you think the practice and discipline of data modeling is heading now?
Um, well, um, and where are we going? Well, um, there's always a silver bullet proposed in IT. We've had many silver bullets in the past. Everyone thinks that the latest technology is going to clean the ocean and stop global warming and do all sorts of miracles for us. Um, each technological advance is important. I'm not putting them down, but we're progressing, we're going forward. We try a technology, we find some of it useful, we discard some of it. Um, and then the next advance brings us along the way. It's an exciting world to be in. It's a never ending new developments. So you have to like change and you have to be able to adapt to change.
I'm glad actually you mentioned AI, and it's not just a fashion statement like AI out there. As we all know, AI is there and it's going to be used more and more. But the quality of your AI
Mhm.
depends on the data you put in. So you can see a lot of vendors, and again, we provide technology for Microsoft, Click, and all of these,
Mhm.
where they say your AI is going to be as good as the data you put in, the quality of the data you put in. Well, your data and the quality of your data will be as good as the metadata you have about it. And there we
Right.
go again. This is where data modeling connects again all the dots, because your data for the AI to understand these large models that are needed in there are like imagine a giant virtual data model
Mhm,
of the enterprise, of the relationship between any entities in any technologies,
mhm,
and it's not just the relational database where it all started, but some can be in a data lake file system, in a
mhm.
hierarchical JSON files, and
Right.
you got some everywhere. So before we bring artificial intelligence into it, how about as a large model input, we have the actual metadata of a virtual large data model here,
Mhm,
where all ETL little queries, whatever happened in the actual BI tools, bring the intelligence, all this correlation, all these joins, lookup. They're not
mhm.
PKFK. Okay, we're not in the relational database, but they are a relationship connecting these
Between them.
entities. And if you have all these relationship, again, entity relationship attributes, if you have that, imagine a virtual extreme large
Mm,
view of the enterprise, a virtual extreme large data model, you bring that as input of the AI, this will get there. This is actually a topic close to my heart that um, we have a group that is our Meta Carta platform. And it's
mm,
not only the data models, but we look at the lineage and all the joins lookup in every single, we parse every SQL statement, every PySpark, every notebook, every business object universe. And
mhm,
we find all these relationships. And again, it gets back to a virtual large data model. And
mhm.
also, people are confusing data model with physical data model of the
Yeah.
good old relational database. Yes, it started there, but
Mhm.
tell us a little bit more the importance again of not just physical data model, but also logical data model and even conceptual data model that allows you to have a bigger vision of all this.
Right, right. It's extremely important for your business people to own the conceptual model, to participate in its development. This is the eight to 15 entity picture of their entire business or the slice of the business that they're interested in. And then if they can watch and participate in the development of the logical model from the conceptual, and if they can see how the conceptual identified subject areas which blew up, so to speak, into sets of entities, then they have aha moments.
You're talking to many university students, you're teaching even,
Yeah.
what interest is there in data modeling, and hopefully future generation will continue the practice and dissociate data modeling from relational database. Again, it's logical,
Mhm.
it's data at the end of the day,
Mhm.
proper data modeling, and I'm not talking physical data modeling but logical and thing, is
Mhm.
what connects business to IT underneath. Don't you
Yes.
think so?
Yes, I agree 150%, or maybe 200%. Um, let's see, when I give a talk in the university, I always get a small core of IT students who are fascinated with every aspect of IT. There are some students who just want to learn how to code and they go off to coding, jobs and that's it. But there's always a core of students um, who want to learn everything about IT. And they're the ones who show up to my talks.
Well, those today who can connect both worlds will have a big role as
Right.
well, and that's definitely true. And it's not just data modeling per se.
Mhm.
Don't you think it's also important to connect the data models to the business models? In some of
Oh,
these
yeah,
vendors, like in the old days of Irwin, if you remember, it was Irwin Data Modeler and BP Win Business Process Modeling, and
right.
it was IDEF 1X data modeling notation. And I think it was IDEF 3 or IDEF 4. I forgot what the standard was at the time. And,
Mhm.
standards in business processes have evolved. Today, it's more
Right.
BPMN, which is Business Process Modeling Notation. But it's important these data models get connected to the business
to the
process
business.
models. Don't you think so?
Yes, when I taught data modeling in 12 weeks at National Securities Clearing Corporation, we developed a data model and then we developed a process model. And the height of the class was that we mapped every single data point identified to a process and vice versa, so that we made sure that for every business process it was data, and for every piece of data belonged to at least one business process. Yeah,
Definitely,
yeah.
definitely important. Process modeling is something we as a company at Meta Integration in our metadata management platform and now Meta Carta, we have always left behind, but we've reintroduced you that concept of business process modeling
Mm,
because of data modeling.
right.
Obviously, we have a lot of customers that just like you believe in data modeling, and they have physical data models that sometimes stitch to the database itself, but they
Mm,
also have logical and business process, I mean, logical and conceptual model. They also use that for compliance. There are a lot of
yes.
standards. You more familiar than me in finance and banking. I'm a little bit more familiar in healthcare, but it's the same story in all vertical markets. At the end
Right.
of the day, for compliance, a lot of it is if you can map, and if
Mm,
somebody is talking, I'm sure in your domain, an FDIC insurance concept, you need to see where it is in your system, and
right.
that is very important. And now, indeed, business process modeling comes
Right.
into that.
Yes,
That's for sure.
and that you have attributes that are answering all of the questions that the regulations about your particular business impose.
And that's a vocabulary issue also at the end. There is not just one definition. There is, like, imagine these large banks. There is
Yeah.
the definition of each sub banks they might have acquired, the new corporate definition, and also a mapping to other definition according to FDIC, according to SEC, or according to whatever.
Right, right.
And it's when we talk data models, we talk also about semantic mappings of
Yeah.
these data models to all the systems out there. Uh, so that brings also to another topic, which is equally important, is it's actually, like data cataloging took another twist. Say, all right, we're going to document the data stores using glossary, term-based data cataloging. Well, there is one benefit to that credit out there, which is credit that we owe them, is that at least they avoid the duplication. So when a concept like a term is associated and used at multiple places, instead of burying it inside a description or a business
Mhm.
name, you have one place to update. But
Right.
don't you think that glossaries are great and are needed, but it doesn't remove the need for data modeling? You still need
Well,
these data models.
what the glossaries are great. I use them. I love them, but you don't see the relationships between the large pieces of data. What's missing in the glossaries and the catalogs are the relationships. Now, sometimes the relationships are defined as a line, a term and a definition in the catalogs, but it's not graphical, it's not visual. And there are lots of people, um, it's very, very interesting when you look at people's cognitive skills. There are people who do better by reading text, and then there are people who do better by looking at pictures. Their minds are wired one way or the other. And the data model gives you the graphical picture of the structure of the database. And when I was designing databases, I would feel as if I was walking around tables in the database. Other people do better by reading text descriptions. But if you can train yourself to do it both ways, to be able to incorporate in your mind the text description and then the graphic, then you have a very powerful database development skill, and it's worth a lot. It's really worth it.
Definitely. When I started in this business a long, long time ago, possibly even older than Erwin, I had a friend of mine who had created a software called STP, Software Through Pictures,
Oh.
and it was doing a lot through pictures, design code, design thing. But also, you got to be careful on pictures and diagram. A lot of people now jump into graph database and say, here are objects and relationships, but you need a lot of methodologies and things out there because relationships are not all made equals. You need a
Mhm.
lot of diagrams with very precise notation to talk about.
Mhm.
There is a difference between a lineage diagram, a data flow diagram, a
Mhm.
semantic diagram, but is like, showing what's going on from a data model, conceptual data model going down there, to an
Mhm.
actual data model, which is relationship, PK or FK or not.
Mhm.
These are different. So yes, glossaries, today's terms have relationships between them, but it's not a formal notation where I can see like in UML, a
Mhm.
generalization or an aggregation, or in data modeling, it doesn't matter, the notation and things. Data modeling is a very precise notation, so is process modeling, so is lineage diagram. I believe in the pictures. The glossaries have only one benefit, is to factorize a little bit what has been
Mhm.
duplicated in the old
Right.
days.
To
But it's
dedupe.
not a substitute. And
Right.
a combination of both is probably ideal, where
Mhm.
where you can reuse versus duplicate is definitely good. Let's
Right.
change topic for a second. Um, Data modeling has been done a lot in the classic way when we started this conversation, you know,
Mhm.
uh, and it matched the old days. They were at their very first data warehouse. They were, 15 years or 20 years ago, and, in the
Mhm.
Teradata or Oracle or whatever technology. It took 2 years to build the first databases. They were designing them and going logical to physical, generate, then work on the ETL, work on all these aspects, and it took 2 years for database to be operational. Uh,
Mhm.
Today, companies are no longer on their first data warehouse rodeo. They might have started
Right.
on
Right.
Oracle and Teradata, uh, but things have changed, and the pace of change itself has dramatically increased. Uh,
Mhm.
Today, when continuous deployment, technology has evolved, but at the end, physical data model are still relevant, and so are the logical on top. What do you think? The change of technology versus data modeling?
Um, what I find in many of the big corporations, I'm talking about big corporations now, not mom and pop and not small firms, with small databases, but in the big firms, they have in existence already mainframes and server farms full of customer information, product information, and so on, and all the regulations. Um, what I find even in the big businesses is that there is incremental change, and it is really necessary for the data modelers who are working today to understand the databases and therefore the data models of what exists, and to be able to augment them and change them and add features quickly. And it's possible because we're not developing from scratch anymore. At least in the big firms, they have, they have farms of data, um, arranged in various ways. Uh, and it's up to the data modelers, um, and the DBAs to be nimble, with the data that exists and to be able to augment it and put in an addition overnight. Um, it's definitely possible. It's definitely doable.
I also see that everywhere. We have worked in all sectors. With the largest retailer in the US and possibly in the world, they had the largest Teradata on the planet, and we loved it because we could check, on the edge how far we could maintain and keep up with this metadata. They also went on the cloud, and on the cloud, they used Google BigQuery and all Google technology. But at the end, the data models played a big role out there because, but first of all, they had a big data modeling group, so they were already believers. But in the data catalog metadata management, that's how they correlated the two systems. And
Yeah.
and again, physical data modeling, probably when people started with many of these tools, half of it was for logical and physical, logical modeling or even conceptual, and the other half was physical data modeling to generate databases.
Yeah,
These days,
yeah.
this portion has been reduced dramatically because the creation has become so dynamic as side effect of everything. They reverse engineer physical data model and map them for compliance to
Mhm.
financial models and all of that. That is way more important and relevant. I had the same in the financial sector. I worked with the largest bank in Canada, and we've worked together for now 4 or 5 years. They have 3 terabytes of metadata, and a lot of it, again, includes very large models that are
Mhm.
mapped to all these physical systems. But it's important to realize that all these large companies, they don't have just the latest technology. The old data warehouse still work with old BI tools, and you need to support them. And you
Right.
need to support the latest Snowflake, Databricks, name it, Google, Amazon,
Mhm.
Microsoft. And the data models at the end do connect all of those together. That's
Yes.
for sure. Very exciting, Claire. So what's next for you? Another book after this one?
Well, I'm not sure about another book, but I will be giving a talk to the New York DAMA Association pretty soon. I think it's June, and I'm also will be speaking at Brooklyn College, and a few of the other colleges in the New York City area, uh, and then we'll think about another book.
Excellent, excellent. One thing at the
Mm,
time. First, you got to
right.
preach what you've already done, but you've been preaching data modeling all your life. So, but put it
Mhm.
in writing is excellent. I mean, what I like on your system, and again, I bought it on Amazon, but then when I realized that you could get the physical data model, in your
Right.
studio, convert it to Irwin or whatever it is. That changes
Mhm.
everything. These meta models, I could import them in our meta carta and map existing system with it. It's absolutely excellent. But I would like to thank you very much. It's very refreshing for me to see that how the discipline that I started with 30 years ago is still very relevant, and I see it even more relevant than ever. So thank you very much, Claire.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure speaking with you, and I hope that the folks listening can catch one of my talks or help themselves to a book. Um, it's been a delight. Thank you so much.